Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. On September 20th, I did an interview with Sergeant Clifford Stone, who has become famous for the 500,000 pages of documents that he has on UFOs. I interviewed Clifford, and the portion of the interview I'm going to play deals primarily with the UFO cover-up of the Roswell crash, and most importantly, Clifford Stone's story that he was given at one point 24 hours with the famous Holloman Airforce Base film, in which he was allowed to show it to whoever he wanted, as long as he didn't tell them specifically what he was going to show them, and no one showed up. The story has been backed up by a couple of people. It's a fascinating story. The Holloman Air Force Base story is a rumored story where aliens land in April of 1964 at Holloman Air Force Base. This is all caught on film. It is rumored to be part of presidential briefings, this 15-minute film. Clifford claims he saw it, had it in his possession, and we'll go through that story. And I also talked to Clifford as we start the interview about how did he end up living in Roswell, New Mexico. At the end of October, I will be doing an interview with Clifford at his house, a video interview. So this is just sort of a start to a much longer video interview that I'll be doing with Clifford. So thanks for your time and enjoy.
The Army sent me here. I was supposed to be part of a cover-up story once that broke about the Roswell crash. Because in 1985, I got here in, 83, I think. But Bill Moore was doing his book on the Roswell crash. So there was major media coming out about the Roswell crash. They were able to keep it quiet for a long, long time because we would never know about it if Stanton Friedman had never accidentally ran into Colonel, what was his name? Jesse Marcel. Had he never ran into him by accident, because Marcel was very bitter towards the military by making him hold that stuff while the media took pictures saying it's just a down weather balloon that had been out in the desert for a month or so. And he knew better. So, yeah, he was more than happy to talk to Stanton Friedman. Bear with me. I mean, things get clouded when you get older. But he was more than happy to talk to him. So he went ahead and hit up on what was going on. And when this was going on, the situation was that he went ahead and reported it and went ahead and got with the Roswell Daily Record, got the paper for those couple of days there showing where they had reported that they recovered a UFO. Now, in 1965, Frank Edwards did a book called Flying Saucers, Serious Business. He has one or two paragraphs in there making mention of the event, but it didn't go nowhere. Now, Bill Moore picked up on the story and flew with it. Then he had several other people came in play with him. Two people who were very actively involved with him, which we don't see eye to eye, and both of them feel that I'm a very dangerous person, was Special Agent Richard C. Doty and Captain Robert Collins. They worked very closely with him in doing this. When they came here to visit, they had dinner right here at my house. But, you know, here it was coming out. But the military had always set in play that, you know, it'd be nice with me having a active interest in UFOs as a hobby, that if I was here and I'd go ahead and be in a position where I could talk to the local media and discredit it. During the time that I was here, they had a gentleman up in Albuquerque that Doty was manipulating to try to make sure that he would sound crazy, and the truth about what he's really trying to talk about would never come out. Anyhow, that person was Paul Benowitz, and I talked to him on the phone, and I tried to convince him that Doty was bad news, but he worshipped Doty. He thought Doty was the greatest thing since sliced bread, and that the UFO community, all he was doing was rubbing their noses in it because they didn't know anything. Well, I can tell you right now, and I'll even tell you the person who told me, but I went ahead and I wanted to know the truth about, because I got a document from the OSI out of Washington, D.C., where they acknowledged that Benowitz was permitted to give a briefing on UFOs that he was doing research on there at the Kirtland and Monsanto areas. And it was him giving that briefing, maybe one other civilian that could brief military personnel, high-ranking personnel in UFOs. I don't know where that ever happened before. This is the one and only incident I know of. But anyhow, the provost marshal signed off on that report. It was an OSI report. And it was, I can't remember his name right now, but it's on the report. Edwards, I think is his last name. And I called him at his office in Holloman Airforce Base. And I said, how do you feel about Paul Benowitz? He says, Sergeant, I know who you are. I know what you're doing. And I damn well know what you're doing. It's not just a hobby. But if you call me at home tonight, I'll try to talk to you. So I waited. That night I called maybe about 6, 7 o'clock. I called his home phone number. Then I said, okay, just one simple question. How do you feel about Paul Benowitz and what he's doing? He says, Sergeant, I'll tell you this. And this is a direct quote. Paul Benowitz is investigating something that is not found in nature. I didn't want to pursue any more questioning because he was active military. He was a field grade officer. And the whole situation is, I did not want to put him in harm's way. But, I'd already been put in harm's way. They were already trying to court-martial me because I'd been given a lawful order not to write to members of Congress, not to talk to the media, not to go ahead and write any Department of Defense organizations making any request for any information whatsoever. And, I went ahead and told them that I considered that an unlawful order. And I wasn't going to go along with it. They said, well, you might be court-martialed, you're going to destroy your career. And I said, that might be. But I have a moral obligation to do what I'm doing. Before I'd go along with it. Now I'm not going to go along with it. We don't. I was talking to Major Scully, the executive officer of the U.S. Army detachment there at Nemi. And eventually I got a call from Congressman Domenich's office. And I was corresponding, working with Domenici, Bingaman, and what's the guy that requested the General Accounting Office shift. I was working with all three of them. And Bingaman. And I have letters here where they try to get information for me. But anyhow, I got a call telling me that a special person would be here in Roswell and that they'd like to meet with me. But when they called my office. And they called me in and they said, do you know where you were out at lunch, who you got a call from? And I don't know. And they said, Senator Domenich's office. Oh, okay. And they said, do you know what that's about? I says, yes, sir, I know what that's about. And I said, you know, a friend is interested in UFOs, same as I am, who happens to work for the minister's office. Well, you're not to have them call here. I said, hey, I can't tell a United States Senator not to call me here. You call and tell them not to do that. Anyhow, we went ahead and we went around and around. Then I was dismissed. That night before I went home, he called me back into his office and, you know, was discussing about how it would look bad on the Army, how it would look bad on everybody else. They knew that I had an interest in UFOs and was talking about it. Then he says, besides, what difference does it make if the Pentagon has 50 recovered flying saucers? What difference does that make to you? And my response, and this is verbatim also, sir, you have the luxury of not knowing the truth. Unfortunately, I do not share that same luxury. So for the next 18 months, my life became a living hell. They tried to court-martial me. They sent me for a psych evaluation that backfired on them big time. But they, you know, the psychologist says, there's nothing wrong with this guy, and returned me to duty and says, do whatever you want to with him. He's perfectly sane. As a matter of fact, he's highly intelligent. And Major Sclery had been promoted to Lieutenant Colonel now by that time. He called the psychologist and says, how can you do this? How can you send him back here? Knowing he has an interest in UFOs. He says, oh, no. He has more than an interest in UFOs. Somehow, some way, there's something that's tied with his official duties that you may not know and I may not know dealing with UFOs. But says, I'll tell you this, Colonel. Next time you send somebody up here for a psych evaluation, do two things. Make sure we're not going to get calls from people in high places validating this individual. Two, make sure that person isn't more intelligent than you are. And he hung up on him. And of course the psychologist was just a major, but that ended it. But then the President of the United States made an inquiry on what was going on with me. Because by this time there was concern that the national media was going to pick up on the fact that I was here. I made it clear already that if I'm approached by the national media, I'm going to, you know, lay everything right out on the table about my official involvement. This is between the period of 85 and 88. Oh, yeah, I got the cover sheet, actually, where it was sent, an inquiry was sent, that the president wanted to know what was going on with me. And yeah. Bill Moore during that time was right here. Him and a couple other people that was involved with him. Now, Richard Doty would never come. If you would go back and check with a Inside Edition reporter that did a 3-part series on UFOs in about 91, 92 time frame. May have been even before that. And I got his name, but I have to look it up. I can't remember right off the top of my head. Anyhow, he went ahead, did the 3-part series where he wanted to know about UFOs and the UFO crash here. So he stopped here at Roswell on his way to California to talk to Bill Moore and his associates, also Condor and Falcon. So he asked if I knew where the crash site was. I said, yeah, I know where it's at, and I'll take you there. Well, the people who I was working with said, no, you don't go. You have your civilian friend take him out there. And, you know, a friend of mine by the name of Ralph Pike, he knew where to take him. So he went ahead and took him out there to the crash site. They gathered information, things of this sort, you know, taking picture of the windmill that was still there. And the location, one place that they didn't take him to was the actual crash site, which was about 4 miles away from the wind tower. And that was 4 miles northeast of the wind tower. So they were coming back, and they saw unusual aircraft following them, and even helicopters coming flying in real low. And while all this was going on, they got back here, and he wanted to talk to me later on over at his hotel room. But my friend came by, Ralph Hike. He says, "Do you know who they're going to go see?" I said, "No." He said, "They're going to go see Bill Moore and his people. Then they're going to go ahead and interview Falcon and Condor." And he says, "You know who they are?" I said, "Oh, yeah, I know who they are." So when I got back, I told this reporter, look, Condor is, in fact, a Air Force intelligence officer, Captain Robert Collins. Falcon is Sergeant Richard C. Doty. And he said, "Oh," he says, "well, they told me that Doty was a colonel." Nope, he's a sergeant. He's in OSI. And he says, "Well, you know, they're going to give me a copy of the Carter briefing." I said, "Oh, that. What do you mean, oh, that?" I said, "I can show it to you. I don't have the authority to give you a copy, but I went ahead, let him look at it." And he was begging me for a copy. And I said, "Oh, I'm sure they'll provide you with a copy when you get there." So when he went back, and this wasn't planned, he went on to Washington, or went on to California, was interviewing Bill Moore, who got very upset about the fact that he stopped here to talk to me. Anyhow, they went ahead and he said, "Oh, well, you know, Sergeant Stone provided me a copy of the Carter briefing." And they said he couldn't have, no way could he have a copy. And says, well, he had a copy, and he gave me a copy, which I did not do. And they said, "Okay, if you have a copy, let's see it." He says, "Well, I want to keep it in a safe place." Says, "Okay, go back, go to page, I think it was page 11, and tell us what the entire sentence is on line 3. So he left, and he called me real quick, and he said, "I need to know what that is." So I went ahead and I read it to him. And he copied it down. He went back, and he told him what it was. They looked. It was 100% accurate. Doty and Collins caught the next thing flying back here to Albuquerque and refused to be interviewed, period. So that ended that. But he still did the 3-part report on UFOs. And if you see that, you'll notice that all the documents are from me, because he puts them up where the cover letters are with them, and my name is there with my home address even. So the whole situation is, the cat was out of the bag, that, you know, we knew who they were. They knew that I'd talked to this reporter, and that wasn't cool. But, you know, I've asked a lot of people, please talk to this reporter. When I'm the only one talking about it, it's just an interesting story. When you go, oh yeah, as a matter of fact, oh yeah, I still have those. And see, I'm going to tell you right up front that the MG-12 is a bunch of hooey. That the whole situation, is there an organization like that? Yes, there is. And when there's a crash saucer or a serious event where we're going to gather intel in that particular event dealing with UFOs, then these people who are a party to that from several different high-level intelligence organizations meet in the what they call the Situation Room. And that's actually in the White House, by the way. And they're there from flash to bang. And, you know, they get interim reports, and depending on the intensity of whatever's going on, it can be anywhere from a half hour to 4 hours in the interim reports. Then they get a finalized report, and everybody that was involved in the operation are debriefed. Then they go ahead, they sign a form reminding them that they are never, ever to talk about this, period. that the information is compartmentalized under the sensitive intelligence, sensitive compartmented intelligence, and also sometimes under what they call SAP, Special Access Programs. So they're to forget it ever happened. So you do sign that. It's just like, the standard form 189, I think it was, that you sign for confidential, secret, and top secret material. Well, form you sign for access to the sensitive compartmented information program is different. That one right there is about 6-7 pages. But then when you go into it and you're working in certain programs, the actual debriefing form itself, that does not make any mention of what you're working with or anything like that, is classified at a secret level, period. That's why when people say, yeah, they debriefed me, told me I could never talk about it, that form right there, it's classified secret to begin with. And to this day, it's that way, but I can show you a copy of that also. Well, the document that he was going to go there to head up on was known as the Carter briefing. All those documents of MJ-12 is phony. You know where Snowbird came from, right? All of it, it's to go ahead and cause discord within the UFO field itself. We don't need them doing that. We're good enough at doing that ourselves, period. And, the whole situation is we should be looking for the truth and digging deep and hard for the truth and assimilating that information as quickly and as rapidly as possible. With me, the documentation and stuff I give freely. I've had some people in the UFO field who shall remain nameless, that when I'd give them documents, they would ask me not to give them to no one else until they have a chance to go ahead and do something with it. And of course, knowing my nature, they'd say, well, so we can get it out there in a respectable manner. No, they want to get it out in the book and be the first to release it. And I don't care. I don't have to be named with it. But, the whole somebody comes to question it. We got this from Stone. And I send mine, and every document I have, I'll tell you where I got it and how I got it. Gilmore and his little group had been infiltrated by a counterintelligence operation that was trying to find out what was going on with these people that was behind this bunch of malarkey on MJ-12, because it wasn't officially sanctioned. And the reason they did that was that some key words in some of the documents were still at that time considered classified. Good example. In one of the documents, they make mention of snowbird, and that's the code word for us test flying UFOs. Well, but that wasn't for real. The code word snowbird was for real, and it dealt with our second operations training right out of here at White Sands, operations to try to free the people who were being held in Iran as captives after Iran fell to the Ayatollah. And one of the people charged with the security of that operation was an Air Force OSI agent by the name of Richard C. Doty. I can tell you right now, within the American intelligence community that deals with UFOs, you have a group of people that really want the truth to come out. Unfortunately, they oppose another group of people that does not want the truth to come out. And they are the ones that are the keepers of the secret. And they have that authority to do so. But slowly but surely, if we get the information out, if you go and read some of these documents on Jimmy Church's blog, where he put my documents there, you'll see what I'm talking about. And you can download them. What's that? Oh, yeah. I mean, I get calls from time to time. Let me put it that way. Oh, it wasn't 97. It was April 25th, 1964. Oh, that was the date, April 25th, 1964. They actually accidentally landed in Socorro on the date of April 24th, 1964. That's why Samora saw the UFO land. But you got to remember the way they fly, it's actually a manipulation of space-time. But no, in this one, and I know it to be a valid film. Also, I know that the staff cars that were involved were actually vintage 1964, because there was a station wagon, Ford station wagon, had U.S. Air Force and all that stuff on the side of it. There were two staff cars, but they go ahead, they have a film crew that's taking a picture of what appears like just a bright speck of light on the horizon coming toward them, and then it goes ahead and comes into view and makes the shape of a flying disc. The flying disc then starts to descend to the ground, and as it descends to the ground, there are these three little, well, I shouldn't say little, they were good size, but three pegs that come out. They land on that. Then out of the seamless area of the craft, this ramp comes down. When the ramp comes down, you have two people about 5 foot tall. I can't say whether they had hair because the suit that they had on was red and shiny, but also, you know, it was like there was a skull cap that was a part, like it was one piece, but it came over the head so you couldn't tell. I'm wanting to say you had like an antenna on the right side where an ear would be. But they came out and they stood on each side of the ramp. Then there was a couple of other entities that came out. One, which I am sure was in charge and was actually the spokesman, came out. He was met by a colonel, Air Force colonel. They actually shook hands. There's no sound to the film, so you can see they're talking. Then the colonel goes ahead, the one that actually appears to be in charge, got in the staff car, and he and the colonel got in the back seat. The two other entities got into the station wagon, and then they drove off. There's about 8 minutes of them still filming the craft while it's on the ground. And after that, they kept filming. From time to time, there'd be an entity that would step out, and I don't know whether they were talking to the other two that were on the outside guarding the ramp that leads back into the craft, but would come out, then go back in, but actually never coming completely all the way off the ramp. And that's the way the film ends. Yeah, if I didn't let somebody, I spent more than 20 hours while I was working at Novabus. And this guy out of Florida, he calls me, and I wasn't even thinking about it because I was dead tired. I wanted to sleep. He calls and says, "Hey, do you still have that film of you-know-what that took place there in the desert with it landing? I'd like to try to get there and take a view of it." I said, "Yeah." I said, and I wasn't thinking what I was saying. And so he hung up, and I hung up the phone. Within a half hour, there was a knock at the door. I got up, and they were there, and they smiled, and point blank said, "We want the film." And I'm thinking, I should have made him shut up. But now I try to be very careful about people. I will tell a person to drop it real quick if they're talking about something that, you know, I learned a long time while I was in the military. No phone that you are talking on, no computer is absolutely secure. So they came in, they knew about the film. I tried to act like I was not going to give it to them, you know, played around and act like reluctantly, okay, here it is. Well, I had 2 other copies. How they knew I had the 2 other copies, I have no idea. But I figured I was safe because I still was going to be able to keep the 2 other copies. But I didn't. And that was some good film footage. Also, there was a little film, and they got it, and they accidentally found it, and I thought, whoops, I shouldn't have left that out where it could be seen. But in 1957, there was a place in South America where a UFO came down, there were 2 guards there from, the country where it came close to. And the 2 guards actually got a second degree and even a couple third-degree burns from the UFOs that approached them. And the film was actually there. And it's weird to me because I didn't think we had, night vision at that time. But the film is actually got the night vision, the greenish color to it. And I had that, but then they hit up on that right there. But I do still have a roll of Super 8 film that is from Bluebook that deals with some of the, without explanation, of course, some of the film footage that was taken there at various people sent it in to the Air Force. Yeah, okay, the people that know what I did while I was in the military, they're not real happy about me talking, particularly when I started talk about certain things. But the key is they knew that mine was the reason I was talking was to try to help people, because I know situations where people committed suicide, where they lost their jobs, where they lost their families, where they essentially became isolated from civilization, period, just because they had that one incident of high strangeness with an object of unknown origin. So I wanted to get it out that these people are not crazy. This is really going on. Our government knows about it, but for whatever reason, they're covering it up. That's my sole purpose of being involved. Anyhow, they don't like me to be that way, and they want me to understand that my trust was misplaced in putting it in people within the UFO field, because these people are interested in writing books, going in talks, and not really concerned about the truth. As is put to me, with them, the truth be damned. Well, that's not entirely true. I know people that's in the field that are seriously trying to get to the truth. But I know what they're talking about. But anyhow, I went because at that time, I was totally convinced that all of these people were, and if I named them, they're people well known within the UFO field. Well, oh no, we can't come out. We got this we have to do tonight. We're meeting with this person for dinner. So I came on back home. No one showed up. Paula got the notification late. By that time, everything was taken down. And I went ahead, still had the film, and I had to take it back that next morning, and they were going to pick it up. But they wasn't expecting anyone to show up, not even Paula. But Paula showed up, was doing an interview, and I put all the documentation out there for her to see. But I was sitting on the couch, and on the lower right-hand side of the coffee table sat the film. And she went ahead and was taking pictures of the documents, and she went ahead, hit up on the canister, and she says, "Oh, well, what's that there?" I says, "Oh, this is about an event that took place in '64 at Holloman Airforce Base." Now, please keep in mind, I already know that they're listening to everything that I'm saying in the comfort of my own living room. So she's taking the pictures, and I'm hoping she'd say, "Well, can I see that?" Because I had, at that time, well, I still actually have it, my Super 8 movie projector. I still have my side projector. But anyhow, I didn't say anything. She says, "Oh, well, that looks interesting." And, she didn't really put 2 and 2 together what it was all really about. So, she was thinking maybe lights in the night sky. Well, she went ahead, took all the things that she had done here, took it back to Italy with her. Her editor immediately knew what that film was about. Says, "Why didn't you ask to see that film?" She didn't know. Like, she'll tell you she's not really a researcher per se. She's a reporter. And, you know, I have respect for that. But at the same time, I always get leery and I get afraid if I show something or say something to someone, am I getting them in harm's way? And I don't want to do that. If anyone's going to be in harm's way, let it be me. But at the same yeah, well, that's the 97th. That's how you get in 1997. The 50th anniversary of the UFO crash here in Roswell. I had that film because it brought it back just to try to convince me to stop squawking and get out of the UFO business and get on with my life. But I was given it, well, I wasn't given a talk at the time. My second book came out, UFOs Are Real, Extraterrestrial Encounters Documented by the U.S. Government. So I was selling it, but I wasn't given a talk. But the whole situation, they won me out of it completely. And the UFO Museum had forgotten that I was supposed to be there to sell my books. So they tried to block me from doing that. But there was a reporter that was here who came at 5 in the morning to do an interview with me. And actually, they put all their cameras and everything up. And I can't remember her name, but if you can find out the female that was here, she actually went to the UFO Museum and says, whoa, why are you trying to stop Sergeant Stone from setting up to sell his book? He's supposed to be there. He has permission. So, oh yes, he does. So they went ahead and let me do it. But they went ahead and hit up on doing the interview at 5 in the morning. And they were packing up, getting ready. He says, well, okay, we'll see you over there at the visitor center, because that's where I was going to be selling my book. And fortunately for me, they did meet me there. But as they packed everything up, got ready to leave, the phone rang. And when the phone rang, I went ahead and I had the little speaker button on the handset. I pressed that so she could hear. And they were telling me that I should forget about trying to sell anything, and I need to keep my mouth shut, and I should not be talking to reporters. Accidents happen, and it'd be very tragic for my family if I was to have an accident. Think how they would miss me. And she said, darn, I wish I still had our cameras out. I said, I don't think they meant for you to have your cameras out. But, you know, no. And I mean, like yesterday, our house was broken into. I was talking on Jimmy Church's program. My security system alerted me that someone was out front, but somebody actually got on the roof and came in through the entrance on the top floor into my house. And I, you know, when we went to break, I went outside and I could see a silhouette of a man, maybe 6 foot tall, dark, but I guess he thought he was in the dark and I couldn't see him. But, you know, there were lights behind him, so yeah, I could see him. He wasn't standing in the light that was right out there in the alley. He was standing over in the darkened area, but the lights on the next street over silhouetted him, you know, like a Roman candle per se. And I told him, I says, you know, if you want something, come knock on the door. And if I have it, I can give it to you. But I said, you know, don't be trying to sneak around. At that time, I did not know. I did not find out until the day that somebody had broken in upstairs. But no, Jimmy even heard the man at the door, and he was telling me to shut up and get off the phone. Then later on, the security system directed me that somebody was trying to breach the back door. But, you know, it didn't happen. Because we have a big picture window in the back. And I had the bright light on in the living room, so I could go and address the doctor if we went over. And I know no one's trying to do anything like that, but I'm quite sure one of those people left here and probably needed to go to the emergency room, because one of the packages they got into was one of the packages that I particularly set up there that had a rat trap in it. So there's evidence that somebody put their hand in it.
And how did they get the film back?
Oh, they came here to get it. Within a half hour after, all Oh, you're talking about the second time.
The morning after.
No, I was taken to work with. I was head of security out at the Job Corps. Oh, I'm sorry, head of security out at the mall. So I was angry. I was upset because it was something everyone's supposed to be interested in, right?
Yeah.
And I felt betrayed. But I went there. There was Don Schmidt, and there was a guy from the Sci-Fi Channel, and a couple of other people. And I went by Motel 8, that's where they were staying. I went by there, I went in, and I said, see this here? This is what I want you guys to see last time. This is what I had permission to tell you. Now I can't. Now I have to return it back in. And I took the lid off, and I took the film out, and I showed them the leader of the film, where it was marked TS/word, then the control number of the classified document, that being the film. And I said, had you just come by, we may have had a way to get this out in this morning's news, or late last night. But no, nobody wanted to show up. Everyone was too busy partying. And I went ahead and left. Took it on with me.
Yeah.
Then the strange thing on there, they come down there, can you hold on to it? And we'll try to see if we can find a projector. I said, I had the projector. All you had to do was show up. Now it's too late. Here comes this guy that I know, and I know he's taking it, you know. He comes up, excuse me, I'm told that you're in charge of security out here. I need to call the National Law Enforcement Training Center there in Artesia. Can I use your phone? And I said, yes, sir. So I told my security guard that was there with my Galen, I said, take him back to the office, because we had the office locked, and let him go ahead and make this phone call. So he took him on back. As we went back, Galen went over to get the phone for him, but then he goes on into my office, goes down to the bottom right-hand drawer, opens it, takes out the film. Galen goes and says, what are you doing? That stuff belongs to, they always call me Sergeant Stone, but that stuff belongs to Sergeant Stone. You need to put that back. And all he did was bring his fingers up to his lips. Walked on out with it. Galen followed him out. And he went out to the back fire exit. There's a black car there waiting for him. He gets into the car, and it didn't dawn on Galen what the heck was going on. But he knew they were government tags. So Galen goes ahead, comes back, and when he comes back, the people are still standing there. They didn't even catch on what Galen was saying. But they're trying to convince him to get it. And when Galen came back and talked to them, he says, gentlemen, I no longer have the film. But Galen came back and says, Sergeant Stone, you know what these people did? That man went back, he never made a phone call. He went to your desk door and pulled out that film and took it. I said, I knew he was going to do that, Galen. It's not your fault. You didn't let anything go down that is going to get anybody in trouble. And they didn't even catch on what he was saying. But no, I was angry. I felt betrayed because they wouldn't come. Because I figured, look, I got something really, really important to share with you people. I can't tell you what it is, but you won't be sorry you come over. No one showed up.
Yeah. And that was to make the point that nobody would show up. That's what they told you, right?
Yeah, because, if I wasn't talking to people in the UFO field, I'd be out of it.
Wow. Have you got an email address? Because I got to run. Have you got an email address I can contact you, and I'll let you know when I'm coming? And
absolutely. The email is Robert.
Okay.
7504.
Okay.
At.
Okay.
MSN.
Okay.
.com.
Okay, beautiful. Robert7504 at msn.com.
Correct, sir.
Okay, I will send you an email, and I will let you know it's about, about a month from now I'll be there. And I look forward to talking with you and going over some documents and doing some filming, and hopefully I can help get the story out and get the message you need told to the world.
Two things. I hope you like to read, because I'll have a lot of
I do, yeah.
with documents on in PDF format. Two, for God's sake, feel free to share those documents with anyone and everyone who would like him would like to have a conversation.
I appreciate it, and it's an honor to talk to you, sir.
The honor is mine, sir.
Okay.
Have a good day, and God bless.
Okay. Bye-bye.